So I'd like to read Chapter 3 from The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Is opportunity monopolized? No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. Probably it would be hard for you to get control of any great railroad system. That field is pretty well monopolized, but the electrical railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of scope for enterprise, and it will be but a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air will become a great industry, and its branches will give employment to hundreds of thousands and perhaps millions of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation instead of competing with J.J. Hill and others for a chance in the steam railway road? So obviously this was written back in the early 1900s when those examples were more realistic for the saying the railroads are monopolized, but you could get into the airline business, but there's still examples for today of stuff that's not monopolized yet that you can find your own niche. And basically that's looking at what kind of limiting belief do you have that's how is your thinking manifesting physically? Are you projecting some kind of limitation on your ability to get involved in a certain business? It is quite true that if you are a workman in the employees of the Steel Trust, you may have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work. But it's also true that if you will commence to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employee of the Steel Trust. You can buy a farm from 10 to 40 acres and engage in a business as a producer of foodstuff. There's great opportunity at this time for men who will live upon small tracts of land and cultivate the same intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say that it is impossible for you to get the land, but I'm going to prove to you that it is not impossible, and that you can certainly get a farm if you will go to work in a certain way. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution which have been reached. At present in America, it is setting towards agriculture and allied industries and professions. Today, opportunity is open before the factory worker in his line. It is open before the businessman who supplies the farmer more than before the one who supplies the factory workers, and before the professional man who waits upon the farmer more than before the one who serves the working class. There is abundance of opportunity for the man who will go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it. So the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. The workers are not being kept down by their masters. They are not being grounded by the trust and combinations of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. If workers of America chose to do so, they could follow the example of their brothers in Belgium and other countries and establish great department stores and cooperative industries. They could elect men of their own class to office and pass laws favoring the development of such cooperative industries. In a few years, they could take peaceable possession of the industrial field. The working class may become the master class whenever they will begin to do things in a certain way. The law of Wallace is the same for them as it is for all others. They may learn and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do. The individual worker, however, is not held down by the ignorance of the mental slothfulness of his class. He can follow the tide of opportunities to riches, and this book will tell him how. No one is kept in poverty by shortness in supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. A place as large as the Capitol at Washington might be built for every family on earth from the building materials in the United States alone. And under intensive cultivation, the country would produce wool, cotton, linens, and silk enough to clothe every person in the world finer than Solomon was arrayed in all his glory, together with food enough to feed them all luxuriously. The visible supply is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance, one of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made, and older ones are dissolving, but all are shapes assumed by one thing. There is no limit to supply of formless stuff or original substance. The universe is made out of it, but it was not all used in the making of the universe. The space in it, through and between the forms of the visible universe are permitted and filled with the original substance, with the formless stuff, with the raw material of all things. 10,000 times as much has been made, might still be made, and even then we would not have exhausted the supply of universal raw material. No man, therefore, is poor because nature is poor or because there is not enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. What the supply of building materials is exhausted, more will be produced. When the soil is exhausted so that food stuffs will no longer grow upon it, it will be renewed or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver has been dug from the earth, if man is still in such a stage of social development that he needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless. The formless stuff responds to the needs of man. It will not let him be without any good thing. This is the truth of many collectively, the race as a whole is always abundantly rich, and if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things which make the individual man rich. The formless stuff is intelligent. It is stuff which thinks. It is alive and is always impelled towards more life. It is a natural and inherent impulse of life to seek to live more. It is a natural nature of intelligence to enlarge itself and of conscious to find fuller expression. The universe of form has been made by formless living substance, throwing itself into form in order to express itself more fully. The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently towards more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its impelling motives is the increase of life. For this case, everything which can possibly minister to life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack unless God is to contradict himself and nullify his own works. You are kept poor by lack in the supply of riches. Oh, you are not kept poor by the lack in supply of riches. If it is a fact which I shall demonstrate a little further on, that even the resources of formless substance are at the command of a man or a woman will act and think in a certain way. So hopefully you enjoyed that chapter from The Science of Getting Rich, and feel free to join in the discussion down below and keep checking back for more videos like this, and have a good day.